Hello, everyone. This is Kim, and we are on Genesis 12. God had told Abram, "Leave your own country behind you and your own people, and go to the land I will guide you to. If you do, I will cause you to become the father of a great nation. I will bless you and make your name famous, and you will be a blessing to many others. I will bless those who bless you and curse those who curse you, and the entire world will be blessed because of you." So Abram departed as the Lord had instructed him, and Lot went too. Abram was 75 years old at that time. He took his wife Sarai, his nephew Lot, and all his wealth, the cattle and slaves he had gotten in Haran, and finally arrived in Canaan. Traveling through Canaan, they came to a place near Shechem and set up camp beside an oak at Moreh. This area was inhabited by Canaanites at that time. Then Jehovah appeared to Abram and said, "I'm going to give this land to your descendants." And Abram built an altar there to commemorate Jehovah's visit. Afterwards, Abram left that place and traveled southward to the hilly country between Bethel on the west and Ai on the east. There he made camp and made an altar to the Lord and prayed to him. Thus he continued slowly southward to the Negeb, pausing frequently. There was at that time a terrible famine in the land, and so Abram went on down to Egypt to live. But as he was approaching the borders of Egypt, he asked Sarai, his wife, to tell everyone that she was his sister. "You are very beautiful," he told her, "and when the Egyptians see you, they will say, 'This is his wife, let's kill him, and then we can have her.' But if you say, 'You are my sister,' then the Egyptians will treat me well because of you, and spare my life." And sure enough, when they arrived in Egypt, everyone spoke of her beauty. When the palace aides saw her, they praised her to their king, the Pharaoh, and she was taken into his harem. Then Pharaoh gave Abram many gifts because of her: sheep, oxen, donkeys, men and women, slaves, and camels. But the Lord sent a terrible plague upon Pharaoh's household on account of her being there. Then Pharaoh called Abram before him and accused him sharply. "What is this you have done to me?" he demanded. "Why didn't you tell me she was your wife? Why were you willing to let me marry her, saying she was your sister? Here, take her and be gone." And Pharaoh sent them out of the country under armed escort, Abram, his wife, and all his household and possessions. So they left Egypt and traveled north into the Negeb, Abram with his wife and Lot, and all that they owned, for Abram was very rich in livestock, silver, and gold. Then they continued northward toward Bethel, where he had camped before, between Bethel and Ai, to the place where he had built the altar, and there he again worshipped the Lord. Lot too was very wealthy, with sheep and cattle and many servants. But the land could not support both Abram and Lot with all their flocks and herds. There were too many animals for the available pasture. So fights broke out between the herdsmen of Abram and Lot, despite the danger they all faced from the tribes of Canaanites and Perizzites present in the land. Then Abram talked it over with Lot. "This fighting between our men has got to stop," he said. "We can't afford to let a rift develop between our clans. Close relatives such as we are must present our united front. I'll tell you what we'll do. Take your choice of any section of the land you want, and we will separate. If you want that part over there to the east, then I'll stay here in the western section, or if you want the west, then I'll go over there to the east." Lot took a long look at the fertile plains of the Jordan River, well watered everywhere. This was before Jehovah destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah. The whole section was like the Garden of Eden, or like the beautiful countryside around Zoar in Egypt. So that is what Lot chose, the Jordan Valley to the east of them. He went there with his flocks and servants, and thus he and Abram parted company, for Abram stayed in the land of Canaan, while Lot lived among the cities of the plain, settling at a place near the city of Sodom. The men of the area were unusually wicked and sinned greatly against Jehovah. After Lot was gone, the Lord said to Abram, "Look as far as you can see in every direction, for I am going to give it all to you and your descendants. And I am going to give you so many descendants that like dust they can't be counted. Hike in all directions and explore the new possessions I am giving you." Then Abram moved his tent to the oaks of Mamre near Hebron and built an altar to Jehovah there. Now war filled the land. Amraphel, king of Shinar, Arioch, king of Elasar, Shedorlaomer, king of Elam, and Tidal, king of Goim, fought against Bera, king of Sodom, Birsha, king of Gomorrah, Shinab, king of Admah, Shemeber, king of Zeboim, and the king of Bela, later called Zor. These kings of Sodom, Gomorrah, Admah, Zeboim, and Bela mobilized their armies in Siddim Valley, that is, the valley of the Dead Sea. For 12 years they had all been subject to King Chedorlaomer, but now in the 13th year they rebelled. 1 year later Chedorlaomer and his allies arrived and the slaughter began, for they were victorious over the following tribes at the places indicated: the Rephaim in Ashtaroth Karnaim, the Zuzim in Ham, the Emim in the plain of Kiriathaim, the Horites in Mount Seir, as far as El Paran at the edge of the desert. Then they swung around to En Mishpat, later called Kadesh, and destroyed the Amalekites, and also the Amorites living in Hazazon Tamar. But now the other army, that of the kings of Sodom, Gomorrah, Admah, Zeboim, and Bela, Zor, unsuccessfully attacked Chedorlaomer and his allies, as they were in the Dead Sea Valley, 4 kings against 5. As it happened, the valley was full of asphalt pits, and as the army of the kings of Sodom and Gomorrah fled, some slipped into the pits, and the remainder fled to the mountains. Then the victors plundered Sodom and Gomorrah, and carried off all their wealth and food, and went on their homeward way, taking with them Lot, Abram's nephew, who lived in Sodom, and all he owned. One of the men who escaped came and told Abram the Hebrew, who was camping among the oaks belonging to Mamre the Amorite, brothers of Eshcol and Aner, Abram's allies. When Abram learned that Lot had been captured, he called together the men born into his household, 318 of them in all, and chased after the retiring army as far as Dan. He divided his men and attacked during the night from several directions, and pursued the fleeing army to Hobah, north of Damascus, and recovered everything, the loot that had been taken, his relative Lot, and all of Lot's possessions, including the women and other captives. As Abram returned from his strike against Chedorlaomer and the other kings of the valley of Shaveh, later called King's Valley, the king of Sodom came out to meet him, and Melchizedek, the king of Salem, Jerusalem, who was a priest of the God of highest heaven, brought him bread and wine. Then Melchizedek blessed Abram with his blessing. The blessing of the supreme God, creator of heaven and earth, be upon you, Abram, and blessed be God, who has delivered your enemies over to you. Then Abram gave Melchizedek a tenth of all the loot. The king of Sodom told him, "Just give me back my people who were captured. Keep for yourself the booty stolen from my city." But Abram replied, "I have solemnly promised Jehovah, the supreme God, creator of heaven and earth, that I will not take so much as a single thread from you, lest you say Abram is rich because of what I gave him. All I'll accept is what these young men of mine have eaten, but give a share of the loot to Aner, Eshcol, and Mamre, my allies." Afterward Jehovah spoke to Abram in a vision, and this is what he told him. Don't be fearful, Abram, for I will defend you, and I will give you great blessings. But Abram replied, O Lord Jehovah, what good are all your blessings when I have no son? For without a son, some other member of my household will inherit all my wealth. Then Jehovah told him, No, no one else will be your heir, for you will have a son to inherit everything you own. Then God brought Abram outside beneath the nighttime sky and told him, Look up into the heavens and count the stars if you can. Your descendants will be like that, too many to count. And Abram believed God, and then God considered him righteous on account of his faith. And he told him, I am Jehovah, who brought you out of the city of Ur of the Chaldeans to give you this land. But Abraham replied, O Lord Jehovah, how can I be sure that you will give it to me? Then Jehovah told him to take a 3-year-old heifer, a 3-year-old female goat, a 3-year-old ram, a turtle dove, and a young pigeon, and to slay them and cut them apart down the middle, and to separate the halves, but not to divide the birds. And when the vultures came down upon the carcasses, Abram shooed them away. That evening, as the sun was going down, a deep sleep fell upon Abram, and a vision of terrible foreboding, darkness, and horror. Then Jehovah told Abram, Your descendants will be oppressed as slaves in a foreign land for 400 years, but I will punish the nation that enslaves them, and at the end they will come away with great wealth. But you will die in peace at a ripe old age. After 4 generations they will return here to this land, for the wickedness of the Amorite nations living here now will not be ready for punishment until then. As the sun went down and it was dark, Abram saw a smoking firepot and a flaming torch that passed between the halves of the carcasses. So that day Jehovah made his covenant with Abram. I have given this land to your descendants from the Wadi El Arish to the Euphrates River, and I give to them these nations: Kenites, Kenizzites, Cadmonites, Hittites, Perizzites, Rephaim, Amorites, Canaanites, Girgashites, Jebusites. But Sarai and Abram had no children. So Sarai took her maid, an Egyptian girl named Hagar, and gave her to Abram to be his second wife. Since the Lord has given me no children, Sarai said, you may sleep with my servant girl, and her children shall be mine. And Abram agreed. This took place 10 years after Abram had first arrived in the land of Canaan. So he slept with Hagar, and she conceived, and when she realized she was pregnant, she became very proud and arrogant towards her mistress Sarai. Then Sarai said to Abram, It's all your fault, for now this servant girl of mine despises me, though I myself gave her the privilege of being your wife. May the Lord judge you for doing this to me. You have my permission to punish this girl as you see fit, Abram replied. So Sarai beat her, and she ran away. The angel of the Lord found her beside a desert spring along the road to Shur. The angel, Hagar, Sarai's maid, where have you come from, and where are you going? Hagar, I'm running away from my mistress. The angel, return to your mistress and act as you should, for I will make you into a great nation. Yes, you are pregnant, and your baby will be a son, and you are to name him Ishmael. God hears. Because God has heard your woes. This son of yours will be a wild one, free and untamed as a wild ass. He will be against everyone, and everyone will feel the same towards him, but he will live near the rest of his kin. Thereafter Hagar spoke of Jehovah, for it was he who appeared to her, as the God who looked upon me, for she thought, I saw God and lived to tell it. Later that well was named the Well of the Living One who sees me. It lies between Kadesh and Bered. So Hagar gave Abram a son, and Abram named him Ishmael. Abram was 86 years old at this time. When Abram was 99 years old, God appeared to him and told him, I am the Almighty. Obey me and live as you should. I will prepare a contract between us, guaranteeing to make you into a mighty nation. In fact, you shall be the father of not only one nation, but a multitude of nations." Abram fell face downward in the dust as God talked with him. "What's more," God told him, "I am changing your name. It is no longer Abram, exalted father, but Abraham, father of nations. For that is what you will be. I have declared it. I will give you millions of descendants who will form many nations. Kings shall be among your descendants, and I will continue this agreement between us generation after generation, forever, for it shall be between me and your children as well. It is a contract that I shall be your God and the God of your prosperity, of your posterity, and I will give all this land of Canaan to you and them forever, and I will be your God." "Your part of the contract," God told him, "is to obey its terms. You personally and all your posterity have this continual responsibility, that every male among you shall be circumcised. The foreskin of his penis shall be cut off. This will be the proof that you and they accept this covenant. Every male shall be circumcised on the 8th day after birth. This applies to every foreign-born slave as well as to everyone born in your household. This is a permanent part of this contract, and it applies to all your posterity. All must be circumcised. Your bodies will thus be marked as participants in my everlasting covenant. Anyone who refuses those terms shall be cut off from his people, for he has violated my contract." Then God added, "Regarding Sarai your wife, her name is no longer Sarai, but Sarah, princess. And I will bless her and give you a son from her. Yes, I will bless her richly and make her the mother of nations. Many kings shall be among your posterity." Then Abram threw himself down in worship before the Lord, but inside he was laughing in disbelief. "Me be a father?" he said in amusement. "Me, 100 years old, and Sarah to have a baby at 90?" And Abraham said to God, "Yes, do bless Ishmael." "No," God replied, "that isn't what I said. Sarah shall bear you a son, and you are to name him Isaac, laughter, and I will sign my covenant with him forever, and with his descendants. As for Ishmael, all right, I will bless him also, just as you have asked me to. I will cause him to multiply and become a great nation. 12 princes shall be among his posterity. But my contract is with Isaac, who will be born to you and Sarah next year at about this time." That ended the conversation, and God left. Then that very day Abraham took Ishmael, his son, and every other male born in his household, or bought from outside, and cut off their foreskins, just as God had told him to. Abraham was 99 years old at that time, and Ishmael was 13. Both were circumcised the same day, along with all the other men and boys of the household, whether born there or bought as slaves. And that is the end of today's reading. I hope that that was as relaxing for you as it was for me, and I pray that you have a blessed evening. God bless you.